Right now, I've got no Mo Salah, and I'm starting the season with 5 at the back. So with less than a week to go before the season starts, FPL managers are getting closer and closer to their finalised start of season squads. We've got preseason friendlies giving us a small glimpse into team lineups, formations, and a touch of form. So let's have a look at my possible final draft that I haven't changed in quite a while. So let's get into it. Let's start with the bench then. So there are 2 things to notice. One is I'm still going with the idea of having Mason Greenwood there for game week 1. So he's ready to come straight into my side for game week 2. So fear not, my 5 at the back is probably only going to last for the very first game week. It's penciled in for game week 1, but I'll get more as to why I have a back 5 later on. But I think Mason Greenwood, 7.5 million, now he's a midfielder. They didn't sign Sancho, or they haven't signed him yet, so he still looks nailed on to be a starting player for Manchester United, who have decent fixtures, good bit of form. He's a very, very good player as well. He's got the number 11, so I don't think they'd give him that if he wasn't going to have a lot of time in the first team. So that's why Greenwood is in and on the bench, because obviously Manchester United blank in game week 1. Second, Brewster, 4.5 million. Time and time again, he keeps getting linked with Premier League clubs to go out on loan to, and that's great if he does, so he's in right now. But if he doesn't go anywhere, then before the deadline, I'll switch him out for probably Davies at Aston Villa. It's just probably my third sub, 4.5 million bench fodder. But I mean, if Brewster goes to a Premier League club and gets some minutes, he could be a really, really, really good player to have in there. But if he stays at Liverpool, it's a waste of a Liverpool space, so I'm not going to keep him. 4 million, Nyland is my backup goalkeeper right now. He's currently, I think, Villa's number 1. They haven't gone out and signed a new goalkeeper yet. I think Heaton is still not ready to return to first team action. And then we've got Basuma. I think he's probably the best 4.5 million cheap bench option for that price. I was a little bit excited by Zambo Anguissa, the Fulham lad. He spent last season out, I think it was at Villarreal, and Real Madrid were interested in him, but Fulham's gone out and signed a few signings and players to bring in there, so I'm not too sure about that game time. But again, with 4.5 million bench fodder that you're not really wanting to play, you're just looking for minutes and you're looking for just a little bit of potential. So I think Bazuma fits that bill just fine. Starting goal, it's a pretty straightforward pick for me between McCarthy of Southampton and Ryan of Brighton. Now, I've gone with the Saints stopper for 3 reasons. First is Southampton were a lot better in the second half of the season. The first half of the season, they were terrible. Second half of the season, McCarthy becomes the new number 1. Southampton improves, and I just feel as though Southampton as a whole are a better team and more likely to keep clean sheets than Brighton. But going into the new season, it's all up in the air. So number 2, if I had to flip a coin between Ryan and McCarthy, heads Ryan, tails McCarthy, and it comes up whoever, I'm happy with either. But even though I think the squads are very similar as well, I think Southampton have the better opening fixtures compared to Brighton. And 3, it allows me to double up on a 4.5 million defender that I want to start the season with, and that's Kyle Walker-Peters. So it's a good segue to talk about my defence and about doubling up with the lower teams in the Premier League. So people might be crying out saying, what? Doubling up? That's madness. What are you doing? But I think it's better to double up on the lower table teams in the Premier League rather than spread those players around, especially in defence. So with your 4.5 to 5 million defenders and goalkeepers, those results vary more. They rarely keep clean sheets. So, for example, if you've got a defender from Burnley or a goalkeeper or a defender from Burnley, Southampton and Brighton all playing, the likelihood of those 3 teams all getting clean sheets is very unlikely. A lot of the mid to lower table teams concede a lot of goals. So rather than me trying to spread and trying to hit 3 different teams that are in the middle of the Premier League and down, I might as well just double down on one team and hope for a clean sheet. Because even if I do spread it and I've got Burnley, I've got Brighton, I've got Southampton, I've got Newcastle, I've got all these cheap defenders from lower table teams, the chances of me hitting a real good game week where like they all get clean sheets or they all get attacking or defensive returns are very unlikely. So I might as well put at least two of those players together. So again, if you are looking to do something like that, so for example, you go for Ryan, I would suggest don't go Kyle Walker-Peters, maybe go for Lamptey at right back for Brighton. So I think actually doubling up on lower teams and cheaper players is a better option, and that's what I'm going to be doing. For the rest of my defense, as you can see, I'm spending more money than you've probably seen a lot on Twitter or YouTube compared to other people. Why? Because I feel as though it's worth more. So Project Restart, the end of last season, the last 8 games, I had Alexander-Arnold, I had Doherty, and I had Robertson. And that was great because I could expect at least 1 return from those 3 players. But more likely than not, I got 2 returns from those 3 players. I've said this online before, I feel as though a good defender is worth more than what they are priced at in the game. It's about your whole team getting points, and it's similar to what I'm going to talk about now as to why I don't have Mo Salah. I asked myself for now, until we know how teams are looking or what the form's going to be like or who's going to hit the ground running, who will do better from game week 1, day 1, pre-season, when you have to finalise your squad? A 6 million defender or a 6 million forward? Statistically and usually the defender will win that competition. Yes, we could get a 5.5 million Jimenez situation from a couple of seasons past, but if that's the case, then I'll change. FPL is an ever-changing, ever-adapting game. A lot of people right now have the likes of Mitrovic in their side, and whilst their Fulham's fixtures are pretty good, I just look at his price and I'm just thinking that, you know, people might have their Pookie glasses on a little bit. He's the same price as Doherty, Dean, Laporte, and he's more expensive than every other defender except for Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, and Van Dijk. And we're talking about quality, proven FPL players. So that's why I'm going expensive at the back right now. What puts people off is saying 5 at the back, 5 defenders. I need to have another forward, a second or third striker. I just feel as though, at least for one game week with a lot of people benching Man City or Manchester United players, I just feel as though for longevity and for balance of my squad, starting one game week with 5 at the back, but with 5 good players that aren't all cheap, that do have good fixtures, just for one game week, I think is a decent move. You can see I'm going for Reece James here, 5 million at Chelsea. Chelsea have good fixtures and they look set to have a brilliant season. What a transfer market these guys have had. In an attacking sense, we'll have to wait and see for the likes of Chilwell, who is a proven Premier League player, but he's a bit injured still. Silva, not had a pre-season, so I don't think they're going to be straight into Chelsea's side. So James, for himself, he's an attacking player, and if Ziyech nails down that right wing position, that actually spells great news for Reece James, because Ziyech can cut in, or will cut in, as an inside winger or inverted winger inside forward, and that basically means that James is going to have the freedom of that right wing to just basically bomb down as a wing back. So for me, I think if Ziyech injury worries at the minute right now, I was contemplating having him my side, but I think whoever plays on that right side will cut inside, and that'll give James the freedom to attack. He is an attacking player if he's got that right back slot nailed in a very nice looking Chelsea side with good fixtures. I think 5 million is an excellent price. My last 2 defenders are the Liverpool lads, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson. So the question here is why both, and that's down to 1, I think they're both incredible options. 2, they're incredibly priced. And another nice segue here now to move into my midfield is that I'm trying to cover Mo Salah's points. So yes, right now I don't have Mo Salah, but don't quote me on saying that I'm not going to start the season with him. But again, looking at stats and theoretically speaking, I shouldn't need to start the season with him. Few reasons why. First, it's what I said earlier about you need points from your whole team and not just a few. Most people will have 2 premiums, but remember, the more premiums you have, the rest of your team will suffer and you have to subsidize it with very, very cheap players. So if you have 3 premiums, you're hoping that, you know, if 2 of those guys don't deliver, you're banking on 8 very cheap, not high profile FPL players trying to get you some points, which isn't, I think, a very good solution. So as you can see, I personally have 1 premium, 12 million in Aubameyang, and then it's 2 pre-premiums in Son at 9 million and Werner at 9.5, and not too many cheap players in my starting 11 after game week 1. Now, if I were to have Salah to come into this side, for example, for Heung-min Son, then I am going to have to sacrifice 2.5 million from somewhere in my starting 11. So then I have to think, will Salah and a 4.5 million defender, for example, outscore Son and Robertson week in, week out? Yes, Salah can do great things. He's a fantastic player. He's topped FPL 2 out of the last 3 seasons. But I'm thinking as my team as a whole. So remember, FPL is an ever-changing game. Yes, if Salah goes absolutely crazy, then I'll bring him in. I'm trying to start the season with a balanced squad through impartial eyes and the players that are easy to jump on and off from. If I put all my money into my midfield and Vardy has another party or Aguero's back to being his best and starting for all the time for Manchester City, then I'm stuck with all my money in midfield. For Salah as a player, he did get 3 goals and 4 assists in the last 8 games, which is good. However, if you look back at those from an FPL point of view, 4 of those 8 game weeks were blanks. His conversion rate has plummeted, and in the 4 games he did do very well in, 2 of those games you probably wouldn't have captained him because one game when he did really well away to Brighton, Man City had Newcastle at home, so you probably would have captained a Manchester City player. And another game he did really well in was a home fixture against Chelsea. So again, 2 out of the 4 games when he got double-digit hauls were ones where you weren't really going to captain him. And that brings me on to my second reason why I don't have Mo Salah. And on average, people will have 2 top premiums and they'll use them for the captaincy picks. For me, I won't captain Mo Salah until maybe Villa away in game week 4. However, Man City have Leeds away, so that's a very close call. So then it's game week 7 at home to West Ham, but Spurs do have a home game against Brighton. But I would say, okay, hands up, game week 7, Liverpool look like they have the best captaincy options. So again, it comes back to my team as a whole. Why have a 12 million player in my team, in my squad, that I'm probably not going to captain until at the earliest game week 7? So Aubameyang will probably be my captain for game week 1 and game week 2 before I transfer him out for De Bruyne or Sterling. So let's just say a Man City player. Now, from then on, from game week 3, I've got a captaincy option in my Manchester City player. I've got Heung-min Son at Spurs if I keep hold of him, or if I've switched him out to, for example, say Marcus Rashford, who I think is a good option and who I might bring in for game week 2. Then I've got a captaincy option at City and a captaincy option at Spurs or United, because I think City, Spurs and United rotate quite well as captaincy options. So why would I have a player in that I'm not going to captain? Because that's 12 million. And if I'm not, yes, let's just say he gets a goal and an assist and he's getting 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 points, but I'm not captaining him. And it just feels like for 12 million, if I split that money up, that's the difference between a 4.5 million defender and a 6 million defender, or a 8.5 million forward and a 10.5 million forward. So you see what I mean about I'm trying to create a balanced team using that money. So if I'm not going to captain him, then what's the point in spending that much money on that kind of player? For the rest of my midfield, I did just touch on Aubameyang. He'll be the main forward this season, I think, for Arsenal. And now in FPL, he's a midfielder, so he's a great option for those first 2 games as a captain as well. Saint-Maximin is an exciting player. Newcastle have good fixtures. And to be honest, I'm not expecting a Ballon d'Or performance from a 5.5 million midfielder. So yes, he's 5.5 million. He's not amazing. He's not wonderful. He might get me a return every 3 games, but that's what I'm expecting for his price point. My question mark here, though, is over Heung-min Son. So if Ziyech was fit, I probably would have gone Ziyech and Kane over Son and Werner. Son could be a 1-week player, as I mentioned before, because I could take him out straight away for Marcus Rashford in game week 2. However, this position will depend on who's fit, who's ready, because there's question marks over the likes of Ziyech's fitness and Rashford's fitness. So I know Son is fit and ready to go. So right now, that is why he is there as a placeholder. And I've mentioned before, having money spread around my team, my squad as a whole, it feels like it's a lot easier to move. So if a forward does well, I can do Son down to Brewster, Son down to a 4.5 million, and then Brewster up to a 9.5 million forward. So if Jimenez really hits the ground running, I can go, okay, Son's not doing anything, boom, go down to 4.5 million, and then Brewster up to Raul Jimenez, for example, and go to a 4-3-3 formation. So again, spreading that money around my squad in defense, midfield, and attack feels a lot easier to move and keep that wild card in my pocket. I've had Heung-min Son a few times as well, and he's always let me down. I've even captained him for red card performances. But again, he does have huge FPL potential. He is a great player, and this is a season when I said I'm going to be looking at stats more. I'm going to be using decisions less with my heart and more with being impartial as I possibly can. and looking at the numbers. I've even said in my tips videos that you cannot say, I'm not going to get this player in because he's let me down before. You know, players change. Look at Raheem Sterling, for example. Post-lockdown, he was absolutely on fire. But for the first 30 to 40% of the Premier League season last year, he was massively out of form. So you can't look at it that way. So Heung-min Son, it is a clean slate. Moving up front, we have new boy Timo Werner. Chelsea look like a huge threat up front right now with a good run of fixtures and some pre-season goals under his belt. It could be a great start for his Premier League life in England for the German striker. Alongside him, I've got Danny Ings. I'm actually a little bit sad not to start with Raul Jimenez. I've owned him quite a lot over the last 2 years. He always ticks along so nicely, but now I do have some reservations over Wolves right now. First, they've got 2 opening difficult fixtures against Sheffield United away and Man City at home. Danny Ings has got Crystal Palace in game week 1, so that's an absolute storming start to a season, hopefully. Second, Wolves had a really long season last time out, and it's been a very, very short summer, so I don't know how rested they're going to be. They looked completely out of energy and out of ideas towards the end of last season, and I don't know how much they're going to have recovered from that. Third, you got Doherty has gone, Traore's out with COVID-19, Johnny's not playing, he's got ACL or whatever, he's out for months on the left side as well, so I'm unsure about that quality of service that is going to be provided for Raul Jimenez. Fourth, you've got brand new signing, what a signing as well. It's another Portuguese player. It's Silva from Porto, absolute wonder kid. If you've ever played FIFA or Football Manager, you know this guy has got huge potential. I do think rather though that he's going to play with Jimenez rather than fight for first team place, but nevertheless there is a threat there for some kind of rotation or early substitutions or whatever. And fifth, Jimenez's head could have been turned due to transfer speculation. This is one of the things that top FPL managers look at. They don't just look at the stats on the pitch, but they look at the player's life off the pitch. Have they signed a new contract? Is there an argument? Do they like the manager? Do they play for the manager? Are they okay with that formation? It's not just what do they do with stats on the pitch. You've got to look off it, and maybe his head could have been turned. So that is a possibility, but obviously that's the last one. That's a speculation, but it is something that is playing on my mind. So that's it, my last possible FPL draft before the season kicks off. Let's be honest though, we're all going to be tinkering a lot this game week, especially with finalised transfers coming through and any injury news that happens, because football, anything can happen, anything can change. But I'll be honest, this 5 at the back and no Mo Salah idea is one that I've actually had for some time, and it's a move that I haven't moved away from for the last maybe 1 or 2 weeks now, so this could be it. And I've said before, I'm trying to create a more balanced squad based on numbers and stats. So of course I've got backup plans. We've always got our wild card there to get us out of a situation where, let's just say, it all goes wrong and this is just the worst possible draft you've ever seen. We've got wild cards, that's what they're there for. I'm just starting the season with a balanced squad with my money spread around so I can move anywhere in basically 2 moves. And also it's my idea of I'm only going to have these 1 or 2 options for captaincy, so I'd rather start with looking at my team every game week and seeing 8 or 9 very good players and 2 or 3 cheaper ones, and seeing points possibly come from anywhere in my team, rather than have 2 or 3 really, really, really expensive top premium players and thinking, okay, if 2 out of my 3 players here don't get anything, I'm begging my 4.55 million players to get something, and that's not a position of strength, in my opinion, to start the season with. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments below. And also, how are your teams shaping up for the season? Who are you starting for your game week 1 captain? Are there any absolute essential players in your side that has never left a draft? If you do like any content on this channel and you want to see some more, then above me is my top tips for FPL video. Maybe if you liked this video, you can leave a like and you subscribe by clicking on the link just over there. I will be streaming on Friday 12 o'clock at lunchtime UK time, so it'd be great to see you and to have a look at our almost deadline day, finalized pre-season, let's go game week 1 squads. So I hope to see you guys there, and as always, have a good one.